It's really only going to last so long. They'll definitely group up and migrate and gather food and fight each other. So far, they're definitely forming up. South America here, they're mostly just busy killing cows and each other. Antarctica apparently is a place where no one wants to be because they're all just, okay, they can't live on that stuff. I guess the lone takeaway from my world after 1 year is that the population got cut in half because it's not a very survivable world apparently. But I think that's due to just a lot of them fighting each other right away instead of forming cities. Once, one of them is established as the dominant, then they'll start to expand. Because so far it's a lot of humans, there's some dwarves, but it's a lot of orcs and humans it seems like. The population is still dropping rapidly. We went from 2,000 down to 745, but that is naturally going to happen because they did drop a lot of people into the ocean. Australia does have some life here, and I've seen this before with the orcs. They go a little bit crazy just killing everything. They're just going to have to genocide some things before they settle down properly. But most of the continents are covered. I don't think Antarctica is going to support much life. We're waiting on Australia, but same thing. It's a hard place to live. Yeah, I can see where the humans here are having trouble thriving because they just got random orcs trying to murder them, but they'll figure that out amongst themselves. The UK has their own little civilization going, so they'll probably be pretty happy over there. They have a bit of a buffer away from all the other monsters. I suspect the orcs are still kind of very strong because they took over North and South America already. But it's really only been 2 years, so what we can do is turn the time up to ×5, and then we'll go through this quick. Look at all the changes happening now. And then things will settle in. The population seems to have stabilized at about 600 for now. But once they get established and into bigger, better empires and start to evolve, yeah, the population will start to grow again. Just not in Australia. About 5 years later, the population has grown 20%. It is mostly orcs. Again, I think the orcs are just so strong they just destroy everyone else. But now we've covered all the continents except for Antarctica. But we do have some empires down here in Australia. There's only 3 of them, but they'll slowly expand and fight and deal with themselves down there. It's officially 10 years since this whole experiment began. The population has grown by about double actually. It's up to 1,200, mostly orcs. No one wants to cross those mountains, not one little bit. It's been 15 years and I think this is the most populated village at 61 people. And it's actually dwarves, probably up along the mountains up in northern Siberia where no one wants to go anyway. So we'll let them keep going on and keep an eye. The years are going to slip right by. I suspect that once they get established and start evolving, they'll start to group into bigger empires and fight each other at that point, and instead of seeing like a million different little empires, we'll see 4 or 5 big ones. And I think we're starting to see that now. It's been about 20 years, and I think these 2 have maybe joined forces. They're at least a similar color. Apparently these creatures really don't like Scandinavia. They're not touching any of the northern European countries. It's already been 30 years. I think the single strongest village is the Spears of here. Yeah, they look to be far and away the strongest with an army of 47, 2 out of 5 under technology. But it's only been 30 years. We've got a long ways to go. And it looks like we've moved into the Age of Sun. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but it's probably summer. It's strange that after about 35 years, there's still giant gaps in population. So I guess they're not fighting each other for resources yet. They're still just kind of using what they have. They're not running out of room. There are a lot of kings coming and going though. That might be like the average age right now because that was about 40 years. World population is back up to about 2,000 where we started, so it only took 40 years to recover from my start. And officially the Spears of Gear, those little dwarves, have broken 100 population. So far they're the superpower. And besides that is going to be a team of elves that are pretty strong, but the orcs are definitely building some armies. And then when ×5 speed isn't enough to get us through the years, we can do sonic speed. Then we're going through a year, there's another year, this is another year, so we don't have to sit back and wait for them to do stuff, we can force it. I don't know if it's quite a year every second, but you get the idea, we're going to go through very quickly. So remember what the Earth looks like now, because it's not going to stay this way for long. We're into a different age, the age of ash now, so things are going to get dark. But as they start to get better houses, they can fit more population in a smaller area. And they'll just be more efficient with using their resources because they'll combine empires. And we're coming up on officially 100 years since the beginning. And the Siberian dwarves are still the front runners. They even have a nice icy port up here to do ocean stuff. Their armies are actually getting pretty strong. They have a legendary wood slicer and all sorts of fun things. The elves down here, they even have a little satellite colony down here. They're almost at 100 population. There's a few orc populations that are also getting strong. I really thought they would start fighting each other and combine before now. The races might not have been able to fight each other until now. I just changed a few settings. I'm a little confused as to what they mean, but we're gonna let them get back to work. I've also turned disasters on. Didn't realize those were off. So we'll just keep passing through the years to see what kind of civilizations rise and fall. Probably mostly fall. The population overall is still growing. It went up another 10%. We're at about 2,300 idiots in this world. Australia is still divided into its three little empires. Well, we do finally have someone declaring war on someone. We've got a few different ones. So now the empires should start to combine. For some reason, these guys up here in like Siberia have declared war on Australia. I'm not one to judge, but I just think that's a very strange war to have. But they sailed all the way up there just to fight them for some reason. Now that we've introduced war, population is rebalancing itself a little bit, and we have moisturized me for dropping a piranha on land. I'm not entirely sure how or why that happened. Don't care. This is better. Now that we've enabled wars, we see a proper population growth. The northern dwarves are up to 200 population, and everyone is fighting Australia for some reason. They just really don't like them. We're in the age of ash again, so things are a little bit dark. That's probably making people feel a little depressed and unreasonable, and that's why they're fighting so much. Okay, the spears of gear up here are quickly taking over. They have 300 population, and they're going to push over their friendly dwarves over here. Meanwhile, South America is also going to come up and fight them. For some reason, these guys are not a fan. Okay, it's been 200 years since this began, and the populations are shifting. But now that we've enabled wars, empires are consolidating. So this current superpower, the Northern Dwarves, have an army of 145. There's 6 of 8 villages under their control. And they're still far and away the biggest, but there's a few orc armies that are getting big. And the other races are maybe going to be extinct altogether pretty soon. If people have finally moved into Scandinavia, they're finally starting to utilize room because everyone's fighting everyone at this point. The Northern Dwarves are taking a lot of losses, fighting whatever they're fighting down here, but they're going to fight the orcs, who they're actually defeating quite handily. The orcs are always quite strong, so it's refreshing to see someone actually able to take them on properly. Okay, well that empire all got consolidated into all around here, so they're happily in the middle. Actually, South America now is also one giant superpower too, and even North America, so the mega empires are starting to form. And it's only been like 230 years. It's going to be crazy to see what keeps going. These dwarves are also super aggressive. They just don't stop attacking everyone, even if they're way down here in South Africa. The population has come back again to about 2,100. It's been 250 years. And the people over here in Alaska are fighting like eastern Siberia, which is starting to break up a little bit, but the population of dwarves is almost 500 in this empire. And there's the UK, safely under the island with a population of 20, probably being very scared of the rest of European superpower. The dwarves crossed 500 population, it's year 350. So we're down to like 10 or so empires in the world. We started with a whole bunch, like 30 or 50, and they'll only get smaller and smaller from here. Not sure what just happened to the dwarves, but their population just got decimated. I think they picked a fight with the wrong orcs and they fought back. So after 300 years, the orcs in South America have very good but only leather gear. Whereas the dwarves have kind of similar stuff, but they are starting to get some iron because they're probably better miners. But those two empires are far enough away that they aren't really directly fighting each other a lot. The neighbors of the dwarves are going to attack them for some reason. They're other dwarves, but I feel like that's just going to end